Hey, everyone. Get ready for an awesome story that's going to grab you right from the start. Imagine a tiny town, all dusty and quiet, where the sun shines bright and the streets are super small. Everyone in this town knows each other. They wave hello, chat about the weather, and share snacks at the park. It's that kind of place. But one day, something new happened. A kid named Jake Riley showed up. He walked into town on a sunny afternoon, carrying just a beat-up old backpack slung over his shoulder. His shoes were dusty, and his eyes were quiet, like he didn't want anyone to notice him. Now, Jake didn't look like much. He was skinny, not big or tough looking like some kids you might see. He didn't talk a lot either. He just stared at the ground most of the time, keeping to himself. To the people in town, he seemed like an easy target. You know, the kind of kid you might walk right past and not even think about. They figured he was shy, maybe scared, and definitely not someone who'd cause any trouble. Oh boy, were they wrong. Here's the big twist: nobody knew who Jake really was. Before we keep going, I've got a fun question for you. Drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from today? Maybe your bedroom, the living room, or even outside? And here's another one: have you ever met someone who seemed super normal at first, but then totally shocked you with something amazing? I'd love to hear about it. See, Jake wasn't just some random kid who wandered into town. Nope. Deep inside, he had a secret, a huge, exciting secret that nobody could guess. It was like a tiny spark hiding in his chest, waiting to burst out and surprise everyone. This spark could light up the whole town, like a giant firework exploding in the sky on the 4th of July. Boom. Bright, loud, and impossible to ignore. But for now, Jake didn't let anyone see it. He kept his head down, his lips shut, and his secret tucked away. He blended in, quiet as a mouse, just watching and waiting. The town didn't think much of him at first. Kids at school saw him sitting alone at lunch, not saying a word. Grown ups saw him walking down the street, his backpack bouncing a little with each step. Oh, that's just the new kid, they'd say with a shrug. Nothing special about him. They didn't know it yet, but Jake was like a mystery box, plain on the outside, but full of surprises inside. And those surprises? They were about to shake things up in a way no one could imagine. Picture this: it's Jake's first day in town. He walks past the little store where old Mr. Harper sells candy and newspapers. Mr. Harper squints at him through the window and mutters, "Huh, looks like a lost puppy." Down the road, some kids are kicking a soccer ball around. They spot Jake and nudge each other. "Who's that guy?" one of them whispers. "He looks weird," another says, giggling. They didn't invite him to play. They didn't even say hi. To them, Jake was just a stranger, a nobody. But Jake didn't mind. He wasn't here to make a big scene, not yet, anyway. He found a spot under a big oak tree and sat down, pulling his backpack close. He unzipped it just a little, peeking inside like he was checking something important. What was in there? Nobody knew. Maybe it was just books or a sandwich, or maybe it was something way cooler. Whatever it was, Jake kept it to himself. He leaned back against the tree, watching the town go by like he was studying it. The kids playing soccer, the cars rolling down the street, the birds chirping overhead. He took it all in, quiet as can be. The thing is, this sleepy little town wasn't ready for Jake. It was used to being boring and calm, where nothing exciting ever happened. People went to school, ate dinner, and went to bed. Same old, same old. But Jake? He was different. That secret he carried wasn't just some little thing. It was big. It was powerful. It was the kind of secret that could turn everything upside down and make jaws drop all over town. For now, though, Jake stayed low-key. He didn't brag or show off. He didn't tell anyone his story. He just walked around, blending into the background like a shadow. If you saw him, you'd think, oh, that's just some kid. But that's what made it so sneaky. No one had any idea what was coming. No one knew that trouble was about to knock on Jake's door, and when it did, that spark inside him would finally light up. Let's paint the picture a little more. Imagine Jake walking into school the next day. The halls are loud, kids laughing, lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking on the floor. Jake keeps his head down, his backpack hanging off one shoulder. He's wearing a plain gray shirt and jeans, nothing fancy. Other kids bump past him, not even saying sorry. A teacher calls out, "Hey, new kid, don't be late." Jake nods but doesn't answer. He finds his classroom, slips into a desk at the back, and sits there, still as a statue. Everyone else is chatting and joking, but Jake? He's just there. Quiet. Watching. The other kids start whispering about him. "He's so weird," one girl says, twirling her hair. "Yeah, he doesn't even talk," a boy adds, tossing a paper ball across the room. They giggle and roll their eyes. To them, Jake's an easy target, someone they can tease or ignore. They don't know he's got something up his sleeve. They don't know that spark is waiting, growing, ready to burst out when the time is right. And that's where our story really starts to heat up. Because trouble? Oh, it's coming. It's creeping closer every day, like a storm cloud rolling over the hills. Jake can feel it, even if he doesn't say so. He's ready, more ready than anyone could guess. This dusty little town is about to get a wake-up call, and Jake Riley is the one who's going to deliver it. So, what do you think so far? Can you picture Jake in your head, the quiet kid with the big secret? Stick around, because this is just the beginning. Things are about to get wild, and I promise you won't want to miss what happens next. Okay, let's dive into the next part of our story. Things are about to get exciting and a little messy. Meet Cody Baxter. He's the biggest, loudest kid in this dusty little town. Picture a guy who's tall like a tree, with arms thick from tossing hay bales or maybe just pushing people around. Cody's the kind of kid who thinks he's the boss of everything. He walks down the streets like he owns them, head high, chest puffed out, and a big, mean smile on his face. Everyone knows Cody. And everyone knows he's trouble. Cody loves picking on people. If you're smaller than him, weaker than him, or just different, watch out. He's the town's toughest bully, and he's proud of it. He's got a little gang of buddies who follow him around like puppies, laughing at everything he does. They're not nice either, they egg him on, cheering when he's mean. It's like a game to them, and Cody's the star player. So, one day, Cody's strutting around town with his crew, looking for someone to mess with. That's when he spots Jake Riley, the new kid. Jake's just standing there by the park, minding his own business. He's got his beat-up backpack on, his hands stuffed in his pockets, and his eyes on the ground. To Cody, Jake looks perfect. Small. Quiet. Easy. Cody's eyes light up, and a nasty grin spreads across his face. "Fresh meat," he says, his voice all sneaky and rough. He cracks his knuckles, pop, 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 like he's getting ready for something big. His buddies laugh, slapping each other on the back. They can tell Cody's about to have some fun. Cody and his crew start walking toward Jake, slow and sneaky, like wolves circling a little rabbit. They spread out, making a ring around him so he can't slip away. Jake doesn't move. He just stands there, still as a rock. Cody steps closer, towering over him. "New kid, huh?" he says, his voice loud and mean. He shoves Jake's shoulder hard. Not hard enough to knock him down, but hard enough to make him stumble a little. "Better learn quick, this town's mine," Cody growls, poking a finger into his own chest. He wants Jake to know who's in charge. Jake doesn't say anything. Not a single word. He doesn't yell back or push Cody away. He just stands there, hands still in his pockets, staring at the dirt. His face doesn't change, no frown, no scared look, nothing. The crowd watching, some kids from school who'd followed Cody, starts whispering. "Look at him," one kid says. "He's scared," another giggles. "What a baby." They laugh, pointing at Jake like he's the funniest thing they've ever seen. To them, he's just a weak little newcomer who won't fight back. Cody laughs too, a big, booming laugh that echoes across the park. He's loving this. But here's the thing, something's off. If you looked really close, you'd see it. Jake's not just standing there like a statue. There's a tiny twitch in his jaw, right under his ear. It's small, so small you might miss it if you blinked. But it's there. His teeth are clenched just a little, like he's holding something in. Something big. Something hot. Something Cody doesn't even know about. It's like a storm cloud hiding behind a sunny sky, calm on top, but wild underneath. Cody doesn't notice. He's too busy showing off. "What's wrong, new kid?" he teases, shoving Jake again. Too chicken to talk. His crew howls with laughter, slapping their knees. They're having the best time, watching Cody pick on this quiet stranger. Jake stumbles a little from the shove, but he catches himself. He doesn't fall. He doesn't run. He just straightens up, slow and steady, and keeps staring at the ground. The crowd keeps whispering. He's gonna cry, one kid says. Cody's gonna eat him alive, another cheers. They think Jake's done for. But that twitch in Jake's jaw. It's still there. And maybe, just maybe, his hands move a tiny bit in his pockets. Not enough for anyone to see, not yet, but enough to hint that something's brewing. Something Cody can't even imagine. See, Cody thinks he's the king of this game. He thinks he's got Jake all figured out, weak, scared, easy to push around. But Cody's wrong. He's so wrong, and he doesn't even know it yet. Let's picture the scene a little more. It's a warm afternoon, and the park's full of kids hanging out after school. The grass is patchy, worn out from all the running and playing. There's a rusty old swing set creaking in the breeze, and a couple of picnic tables where some kids are eating snacks. Cody's standing in the middle of it all, loud and proud, with his crew spread out around Jake. Jake's in the center of the circle, looking small next to Cody's big shadow. The sun's shining down, making everything hot and bright, but there's a chill in the air, something tense, something waiting to happen. Cody keeps talking, throwing out more mean words. "You don't belong here, new kid," he says, crossing his arms. "Why don't you just go home?" His buddies nod, grinning like they're part of something cool. Jake doesn't answer. He doesn't even look up. His eyes stay on the ground, like he's counting the blades of grass or something. The crowd's getting louder now, buzzing with excitement. They love watching Cody be the big shot. They think Jake's just going to take it and slink away. But that twitch? It's a clue. A tiny, sneaky clue that Jake's not what he seems. He's not scared. He's not weak. He's something else, something Cody's never met before. And Cody? He's too busy laughing to see it. He shoves Jake one more time, just for fun, and steps back with a smirk. "This is too easy," he says to his crew. They cheer, clapping like Cody's just won a prize. The truth is, Cody's walking right into a trap. Not a trap with ropes or nets, but a trap Jake's keeping inside. That spark we talked about? It's there, burning low and quiet, waiting for the right moment. Cody thinks he's in control, but he's not. Jake's letting him think that for now. Every shove, every mean word, every laugh, it's all stacking up, like sticks on a fire. And when that fire gets going, oh, it's going to be big. So, the tension's building. The air feels tight, like something's about to pop. Cody's on top of the world, grinning and flexing. His crew's right behind him, feeding his ego. The crowd's watching, waiting for Jake to break. And Jake? He's still standing there, silent, with that little twitch in his jaw. He's not running. He's not crying. He's just waiting. For what? That's the big question. Stick around, because this is where things start to get wild. Cody's about to find out he picked the wrong kid to mess with. What do you think's coming next? Can you feel the storm brewing? Let me know what you're guessing. I'm so excited to see this unfold. Alright, let's keep this story rolling. Things are heating up now, and you're not gonna believe what happens next. Days went by after Cody first picked on Jake, and guess what? Cody didn't stop. Not even a little. He was like a big, annoying fly that just keeps buzzing around. Every day at school, he found ways to mess with Jake. He'd stick out his foot in the hallway and trip Jake, bam, sending him stumbling into the lockers. Kids would laugh as Jake hit the floor. Cody would grin, proud of himself. Then there were the books. Jake would be walking along, carrying his stuff, and Cody would swoop in like a sneaky bird. He'd smack Jake's books right out of his hands, thud, and watch them scatter all over the ground. Papers would fly everywhere, and Cody would just stand there, arms crossed, laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. One time, he even grabbed Jake's beat-up backpack and tossed it into a big, sloppy mud puddle. Splash! The bag sank in, getting all dirty and wet. Cody's buddies cheered, slapping high fives, while Jake just knelt down, fished it out, and wiped off the mud. Jake didn't say a word. Not once. He didn't yell or cry or run to a teacher. He stayed quiet, picking up his books, fixing his bag, and walking away like nothing happened. The other kids at school noticed this. They started whispering to each other in the halls. "He's such a scaredy cat," one girl said, giggling behind her hand. "Yeah, he's too chicken to do anything," a boy added, kicking a locker for fun. Soon, everyone had a name for him, Coward Jake. They'd call it out when he walked by, "Hey, Coward Jake." And then laugh like it was a big joke. To them, Jake was weak. A pushover. Someone who'd never fight back. But here's the secret they didn't know: Jake wasn't running away. Nope. He wasn't scared or hiding. He was watching. Every single time Cody tripped him, every time his books hit the ground, every mean laugh that rang in his ears, Jake remembered it. It was like he had a little notebook in his head, and he was writing it all down. Shove number 1, check. Laugh number 2, check. Mean word number 3, check. He didn't miss a thing. His eyes were sharp, even if he kept them on the ground most of the time. He was taking it all in, storing it up, waiting. But waiting for what? That's the mystery. Days turned into weeks, and Cody got meaner. He loved being the big shot, and picking on Jake made him feel like the king of the school. His buddies followed him everywhere, nodding and laughing at everything he did. They'd say stuff like, "Cody, you're the best," or "that new kid's so lame." It was like a little club of bullies, and Cody was the leader. Jake, though. He kept doing the same thing, staying quiet, picking up his stuff, walking away. The kids kept calling him Coward Jake, and Cody kept pushing harder. But something was starting to change. Little hints were popping up, like tiny clues in a treasure hunt. One afternoon, things went way too far. It was after school, and the sun was dipping low, turning the sky all orange and pink. Most kids had gone home, but Cody wasn't done yet. He spotted Jake walking behind the gym, a quiet spot with nobody around. Perfect. Cody grinned and waved his crew over. "Let's get him," he whispered, his voice all sneaky. They crept up like cats, surrounding Jake before he could slip away. Cody stepped right in front of him, blocking his path. His fists were clenched tight, knuckles white, ready for trouble. "Fight back, loser!" Cody yelled, his voice booming loud enough to scare the birds out of the trees. He leaned in close, his face red and angry, daring Jake to do something. The air got thick, like before a big storm. Cody's buddies stood behind him, watching with big eyes, waiting for the show. They thought Jake would just stand there again, like always. They thought he'd take it and say nothing. But this time? Oh, this time was different. Jake's head was down at first, like usual. But then slowly his eyes flicked up. Not fast, not scared, but sharp and steady, like a hawk spotting something far away. He looked right at Cody, straight into his mean, grinning face. For the first time since he got to town, Jake opened his mouth and spoke. "You sure about that?" he said. His voice was low, calm, almost too calm. It wasn't loud or shaky. It was smooth, like a still pond with something big hiding under the water. Cody blinked. He wasn't expecting that. He thought Jake would stay quiet forever. For a second, he didn't know what to say. Then he laughed, a big, fake laugh to cover up his surprise. "What's that supposed to mean, huh?" he barked, puffing out his chest. His buddies laughed too, but it sounded different this time. Not so sure. A little nervous. They shifted on their feet, glancing at each other. Something about Jake's look, those sharp eyes, that calm voice made them feel funny. Like maybe they'd missed something. Jake didn't move. He didn't smile or frown. He just stood there, hands still in his pockets, staring at Cody. That twitch in his jaw was back, the one from before. It was small, but it was there, like a tiny signal. Cody kept laughing, trying to act tough. "You're so weird, new kid," he said, waving a hand like it was no big deal. But deep down, he felt it too, a little wiggle of worry. What was Jake hiding? Why wasn't he scared? The truth was, Jake wasn't hiding fear. He was hiding something else. That spark inside him, the one we talked about, was starting to glow a little brighter. Not a lot, not yet, but enough to peek out. Every shove, Every laugh, every mean name had been piling up, and now it was pushing that spark to grow. Cody didn't see it. His buddies didn't see it. But it was there, waiting, getting ready to burst out. The air behind the gym felt heavy now. Cody stepped back, still smirking, but his eyes flicked around like he wasn't so sure anymore. His crew stayed quiet, watching Jake like he was a puzzle they couldn't figure out. Jake didn't say another word. He just kept looking at Cody, steady and calm, like he knew something they didn't. And he did. Oh, he definitely did. What was Jake hiding? That's the big question buzzing in the air. Cody thought he had it all under control, but those 4 little words, "You sure about that?" changed everything. They were a clue. A small one, but a good one. Something big was coming, and it was closer than ever. Stick with me, because this story's about to explode. What do you think Jake's gonna do next? I can't wait to find out. Okay, everyone, hold on tight, this is the part you've been waiting for. The next day after Cody cornered Jake behind the gym, things got crazy. Cody wasn't done being the big bully. Nope. He wanted to make a huge show out of Jake, to prove he was the toughest kid around. So, he came up with a plan. He grabbed Jake by the arm after school and dragged him to the town park. "You're gonna regret messing with me," Cody growled, his voice loud and mean. Half the school heard about it and ran over to watch. Kids were everywhere, sitting on the grass, standing by the swings, crowding around the picnic tables. They wanted to see what Cody would do to the quiet new kid. The park was buzzing like a beehive. The sun was shining bright, making everything hot and sweaty. Cody stood in the middle, cracking his knuckles pop, pop, pop like he always did when he was ready to cause trouble. His buddies were right behind him, grinning and nodding, excited for the action. Jake. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at the ground like nothing was happening. The crowd whispered to each other. "Cody's gonna crush him," one kid said. "Yeah, he's toast," another laughed. They all thought Jake didn't stand a chance. Cody puffed out his chest and yelled, "Time to teach you a lesson." His voice was so loud it bounced off the trees. He swung a wild punch, his fist flying through the air like a rocket, aimed right at Jake's face. Everyone held their breath, waiting for Jake to get smashed. But then boom! Something amazing happened. Jake moved like lightning. 1 second, he was just standing there, all quiet and still. The next second, zip, he ducked under Cody's punch, fast as a flash. Before anyone could blink, he grabbed Cody's arm, twisted it, and flipped him right over. Cody went flying wham, and landed flat on his back in the dirt. The crowd gasped. A big "oh" rippled through the park. Nobody could believe it. Cody, the toughest kid in town, was down on the ground, staring up at the sky with wide eyes. Dust puffed up around him, and for a second, everything went quiet. Even the birds stopped chirping. Jake stood over him, calm as ever, like he'd just tied his shoe or something. Cody's buddies froze, their mouths hanging open. The kids watching didn't know what to do: laugh, cheer, or run away. Cody wasn't done, though. He scrambled up, his face all red and sweaty. He was mad, really mad. "You little," he shouted, charging at Jake again like an angry bull. "Bad move." Jake didn't even flinch. He sidestepped, swish, quick as a cat, and hooked his foot around Cody's leg. Down Cody went again, crash, face first into the dirt. A cloud of dust flew up, and Cody just lay there, groaning. Jake stood tall, brushing off his hands like it was no big deal. The crowd was losing it now, whispering and pointing. Then Jake spoke. His voice cut through the noise, loud and clear so everyone could hear. "I warned you," he said, looking right at Cody. "I trained with the best fighters in the world. You picked the wrong guy." Boom. Those words hit like a thunderclap, loud, strong, and shocking. The truth was out, and it changed everything. Jake wasn't just some quiet kid. He wasn't a coward or a pushover. He was an unstoppable fighter, trained in moves Cody couldn't even dream of. Let's picture it: Cody's sprawled out in the dirt, his shirt all messy and his hair full of grass. His big, tough guy act was gone. His jaw dropped so low it nearly hit the ground. He stared up at Jake, blinking like he couldn't believe what just happened. His buddies took a step back, their grins fading fast. They didn't know what to say. The crowd. They went wild. Kids started cheering, clapping, jumping up and down. Whoa, one boy yelled. Did you see that? A girl shouted. It was like a party breaking out right there in the park. Jake stood in the middle of it all, cool and steady. He didn't smile or brag. He didn't need to. His moves said everything. All those weeks of staying quiet, taking Cody's shoves and laughs, it wasn't because he was scared. It was because he didn't have to prove anything, until now. That spark inside him, the one he'd kept hidden, had finally burst out. And when it did, it lit up the whole town like a giant firework. Think about it. Cody thought he was the strongest, the toughest, the king of everything. He'd been picking on Jake for days, tripping him, tossing his stuff, calling him names. He thought Jake was weak because he didn't fight back. But Jake wasn't weak. He was smart. He waited. He watched. And when the time was right, bam, he showed everyone what he could do. Those fighting moves? They weren't just random tricks. Jake had trained with the best fighters in the world. People who knew how to flip, dodge, and win without even breaking a sweat. Cody didn't stand a chance. The park was a mess now, dust in the air, kids yelling, Cody still on the ground trying to figure out what hit him. His big punch? Missed. His tough talk? Useless. Jake had turned it all around in seconds. The crowd couldn't stop talking. He's so fast, one kid said, waving his arms like he was replaying the fight. Cody's done for, another laughed. Even the little kids on the swing stopped swinging to watch, their eyes big as saucers. Cody finally got up, brushing dirt off his pants. His face was red, not just from the fall, but from embarrassment. He didn't look at Jake. He didn't look at anyone. He just stood there, kicking the ground with his shoe. His buddies didn't cheer him on this time. They just shuffled their feet, looking at each other like, uh-oh, what now? The king of the bullies wasn't the king anymore. Jake had taken that crown without even trying. And Jake? He didn't rub it in. He didn't laugh or point or say, ha, I told you so. He just stood there, hands back in his pockets, watching the crowd. His eyes were sharp, like always, but now everyone could see what they meant. He wasn't just some new kid. He was a fighter, a real one. The kind of person who could take down a bully like Cody with a flick of his wrist. The truth hit everyone hard. All those names cowered Jake, scaredy cat, they were wrong. Jake had been hiding something huge, something awesome. And now it was out. The park was alive with noise, kids clapping, shouting, asking a million questions. Where'd he learn that? One boy yelled. He's so cool, a girl squealed. Jake had flipped the whole story upside down, and nobody would forget it. So, there it was, the big reveal. Jake wasn't weak. He was strong, stronger than anyone thought. Cody picked the wrong guy, and now everyone knew it. What happens next? Oh, it's gonna be good. Stick around, because this story's not over yet. Alright, let's wrap up the wild part of the story and see how everything turns out. After that crazy day in the park when Jake flipped Cody like a pancake and showed everyone he was an unstoppable fighter, things in town were never the same. It was like someone flipped a big switch, and the whole place lit up with a new vibe. Cody's big moment of bullying Jake turned into his big moment of losing, and boy, did it change everything. First off, Cody's crew, the buddies who always followed him around like little shadows, they were gone fast. After Jake knocked Cody into the dirt, those guys didn't know what to do. They looked at Jake standing there, all calm and strong, and their eyes got wide. Uh-oh, one of them mumbled, stepping back. Another tugged his friend's sleeve and whispered, let's get out of here. In seconds, they scattered like leaves blowing away in the wind. They didn't even glance at Jake. They were too scared. The tough guys who used to laugh and cheer for Cody? Poof. They didn't want anything to do with him anymore. Then there were the other kids, the ones who'd watched it all go down in the park. Before that day, they'd been mean to Jake too. They'd laughed when Cody tripped him, clapped when his books hit the ground, and shouted coward Jake, every chance they got. But now? Oh, they couldn't get enough of him. As soon as Cody was down and the dust settled, those kids rushed over like Jake was a superhero. They crowded around him, jumping up and down, their voices all loud and excited. Whoa, where'd you learn that? One boy yelled, waving his arms like he was trying to copy Jake's moves. Yeah, how'd you flip him so fast? A girl asked, her eyes big and shiny. Another kid tugged at Jake's sleeve. Can you teach us? Please. Pretty please. Jake didn't say much. He just stood there, hands in his pockets like always, looking at all the kids around him. For the first time, he smiled a small smile, but a real one. It wasn't big or loud, but it was enough to make everyone feel like he was cool with them. Maybe someday, he said, his voice quiet but clear. The kids cheered even louder. Yes, one shouted. I wanna learn, another added. They didn't see him as coward Jake anymore. Nope. To them, he was the toughest, coolest kid in town. Now, let's talk about Cody. Poor Cody didn't know what hit him. Well, he did, but he didn't want to admit it. After Jake sent him crashing into the dirt, he didn't jump up laughing or bragging like he usually did. Nope. He got up slow, brushing off his pants, his face all red and sweaty. He didn't look at Jake. He didn't look at the crowd. He just stared at the ground, muttering stuff under his breath. Stupid new kid, lucky move, whatever, he grumbled, kicking a rock with his shoe. But nobody bought his excuses. His big shot days? Over. Done. Finished. See, Cody used to walk around like he owned the whole town. He'd push people, laugh loud, and act like he was the boss of everyone. Kids would move out of his way, scared he'd pick on them next. But after Jake took him down, bam, that was gone. Nobody was afraid of him anymore. When he slunk off from the park, head down and shoulders slumped, nobody followed him. His crew was already halfway across town, pretending they didn't know him. The kids who used to cheer for him. They were too busy talking about Jake. Cody wasn't the king anymore. He was just Cody. And he hated it. The town had a new hero now, Jake Riley. He didn't need to yell or show off to prove how strong he was. He didn't need to bully anyone or make them feel small. He just did his thing, quiet and steady, and when the time was right, wham, he showed what he could do. That day in the park, he taught everyone something big: real power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It just strikes when you least expect it, like a lightning bolt out of a clear blue sky. Picture it, the next day at school, things were totally different. Kids didn't whisper "Coward Jake" in the halls anymore. Instead, they waved at him. Hey, Jake, one called out, grinning. That was awesome yesterday, another said, giving him a thumbs up. Even the teachers heard about it. Mr. Carter, the gym teacher, stopped Jake in the hall. Heard you're pretty tough, huh, he said with a wink. Jake just shrugged and smiled that small smile again. He didn't brag. He didn't need to. Everyone already knew. Cody, though. He stayed quiet too, but not in a cool way. He slouched at the back of the classroom, keeping his head down. When kids walked by, they didn't even look at him. It was like he'd turned invisible. One kid whispered to his friend, "Cody's not so tough now, huh," and they both giggled. Cody heard it, but he didn't say anything. His big, loud laugh was gone. His mean grin was gone. He'd learned his lesson the hard way: picking on Jake was a huge mistake. The town started buzzing with Jake's story. Kids told their parents about the fight in the park. You should have seen it, one boy said at dinner. Jake flipped Cody like he was nothing. Parents told their friends, and soon everyone knew. Old Mr. Harper at the candy store chuckled when he heard. That new kid's got guts, he said, handing out lollipops. Even the little kids who played on the swings made up games about it. I'm Jake, one would yell, pretending to dodge a punch. Take that, Cody. Jake didn't act like a big hero, though. He still walked around with his beat-up backpack, still kept to himself most of the time. But now, when he sat under that big oak tree in the park, kids would come say hi instead of ignoring him. They'd ask questions: where'd you train? How strong are you? And he'd just nod or say, it's a long story. He didn't need to prove anything anymore. He'd already shown them all what he could do. Justice was served, big time. Cody had been mean for too long, pushing, tripping, laughing at people. He thought he could do it forever, especially to the quiet new kid. But Jake turned it all around. He didn't just win a fight, he showed everyone that bullies don't always win. Sometimes, the quiet ones, the ones you don't expect, come out on top. And when they do, it feels good. The town learned something that day. Real strength isn't about being loud or mean. It's about knowing what you can do and using it when it matters. Jake was the proof. Cody's big shot days were history, and Jake's quiet power was the new talk of the town. Everything changed, and it was awesome. What do you think? Did Cody deserve that? I bet you're cheering for Jake right now. Hey there, awesome readers. We've made it to the end of Jake's story, and wow, what a ride it was. Cody got flipped, Jake turned into a hero, and the whole town learned something big. Now, let's take a minute to think about what it all means. There's a cool lesson hiding in this tale, and it's one you can carry with you every single day. Ready to hear it? Here we go. So, what's the big lesson here? Sometimes, the person you think is weak, the one who doesn't talk loud or show off, is actually the strongest of all. Think about Jake. He didn't look tough at first. He was skinny, quiet, and kept his head down. Kids called him Coward Jake because he didn't fight back when Cody pushed him around. They thought he was scared, that he couldn't do anything. But guess what? They were so wrong. Jake wasn't weak. He was super strong, stronger than Cody, stronger than anyone guessed. He just didn't need to prove it right away. He waited, stayed calm, and when the time was right, bam, he showed everyone what he could do. Jake didn't need to flex his muscles or brag about his skills. He didn't need to fight every day or yell to get attention. Nope. He saved it up, like a secret treasure, and only used it when he had to. And when he did, oh boy, no one could stop him. He flipped Cody flat on his back, dodged punches like a ninja, and stood tall while the crowd cheered. That's real strength, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that surprises you. It's the kind of power that waits for the perfect moment and then shines so bright, everyone's jaw drops. So, here's something to think about: next time you see someone who's quiet or different, don't be quick to judge them. Maybe they're not loud like Cody, or big and showy. Maybe they don't talk a lot or try to be the center of everything. But that doesn't mean they're weak. They might be hiding something incredible, just like Jake. They could have a spark inside them, a talent, a skill, a strength waiting for the right time to come out. You never know what someone's got up their sleeve until they're ready to show it. So, think twice before you decide what they're all about. They might just surprise you in the best way. And here's the really fun part: what about you? Could you be the next unstoppable fighter? I don't mean that in a mean way like, oh, you're so bad. I mean it in a cool way, like Jake. Think about it. You might not be flipping bullies in a park, but you've got your own kind of strength. Maybe you're great at helping your friends, or you're super smart at math, or you're awesome at making people laugh. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You can be quiet about it, like Jake, and let it shine when it matters most. Everyone's got a spark, something that makes them special. What's yours? I bet it's something cool. Take a second and think, what's one thing you're really good at? It doesn't have to be big or fancy. Maybe you're the best at building Lego towers, or you always know how to cheer up your little brother when he's sad. That's your power. You don't need to show it off every day. Just keep it ready, and when the time's right, let it out and watch everyone be amazed. You could be the next big surprise, just waiting for your moment to shine. This story about Jake and Cody isn't just about fighting or bullies, it's about believing in yourself, even when other people don't. Cody thought he had it all figured out, but Jake proved him wrong. And you can prove people wrong too, not by being mean, but by being you. The real you. The strong you. The you that doesn't give up, even when things get tough. That's what makes a hero, not loud words, but quiet courage.